I want to talk about trans people for a moment, just like me. I don't understand why systems like to take one of the most vulnerable people in society and use us as a scapegoat. I hear them say we shouldn't be allowed in the military because we are weak, and yet we're ostracized from playing in sports because we might have an advantage, at least when it comes to trans women. They always forget about trans men. We're told to be ourselves in a world where that's not actually true. Because once we start doing that, being ourselves, we're disowned, bullied, fired, evicted, discriminated against in healthcare, for one, or killed, simply for being ourselves. I guess there was a hidden line we weren't supposed to cross that no one told us about. Everyone else is told that we are PDFs or groomers simply because we are different. They don't want us to trans their kids, as they put it. That's not how it works. If that were true, it would work the opposite way too. If I, as a trans person, am still trans after watching all of the straight media in the world and having read nothing in relation to LGBT topics or books or media, then I would actually be straight and cis. I would have turned out straight the way that these people talk about us. What about those who are cis with beards but happen to be or identify as women? What about women who can't have children because their inner anatomy does not allow them to, in whatever way that is? Or trans men who don't want to bear children like myself, or the seahorse dads that do? People in society hate trans people because it innately challenges their worldview on what women and men should act and dress like, and does not acknowledge those of us who are non-binary, because that is a direct contradiction to their internal beliefs. That's just the thing, though. Those are your beliefs. It's okay to have your own beliefs. It's completely fine. But you are not allowed to shove them down our throats and then freak out when we accuse you of doing the same thing to us. You can do an action, but you can't sit there and expect us to just take it, because there's always going to be a consequence to whatever your action is. And then people like that get upset about us shoving it down their throats. That's including LGBT people as well. I've been told that myself by people who I thought once loved me for who I was. Speaking of shoving down throats, though, maybe don't use that terminology if you want to sound straight, because that sounds real gay. Just saying. What I want to ask is this. Why do you get freedom of speech and trans people don't? Holy contradiction, Batman. Those contradictions reveal the bigger issue. The boxes that we try to shove each other in just to make ourselves feel comfortable. What about men who don't like being masculine in their mannerisms or whatever because being more feminine feels better to them? And they may wear makeup or do drag, whatever, it doesn't matter. They feel comfortable that way. They're expressing themselves. That doesn't mean that they're trans either. Same thing for butch lesbians. Just because they have short hair or masculine mannerisms does not mean that they are trans either. Why put people into boxes that are clearly solely for you to feel comfortable? Labels help us, but only so far. They aren't as neatly categorized as you might think. Even science says the same thing. Now, those of you who are on the other side, as they want you to believe, will say, basic biology says there's only two genders. You know, don't patronize us with that bullshit. Let me be real. Advanced biology, however, says there are spectrums to gender and sexuality. Yet conservative people, or middle right, or whatever, or far right, whatever, everybody on that side of the spectrum typically says that. Conservatives don't want to acknowledge that because it challenges their worldview and their personal religious ties. I don't mean to sound harsh, I really don't, but it's not about winning an argument at this point. It's really about understanding the truth of the human experience. The experience that we are all in together right now, in this very moment. We are walking tower moments, trans people. We are. We challenge the world with our very existence, to be honest. But we're also human, too, and that needs to be acknowledged. We deserve the same rights as everyone else. The only thing that's different about us is that we are more comfortable in a more unconventional way. And we're treated like criminals and made out to be some kind of terrorist, apparently. When there's not enough of us anyway to even start something like that. Not that we'd want to. The only people we are terrorizing is the people who fear change on all levels. People in power are focused on the wrong 1%. And it's on purpose. I'm telling you. It's like my book series I'm writing. The people they experiment on in my book are turned into these were-like creatures. They can control them at the click of a button that's connected to a chip at the base of their skulls. It's a symbol of having power over people's perceptions via technology. They control the narrative by using them as secret shields. The elites use them as human, or in this case inhuman, bodyguards for angry peasants. The chip is hard to remove without help. Otherwise, you risk dying or suffering from severe pain or paralysis. I will say, though, that it doesn't just represent trans people. These characters also represent every minority ever made out to be a monster or a problem. It's an archetype that I'm trying to convey here. They make us out to be these dangerous mythical creatures that shouldn't exist. And yet they are. We are. And yet those in power, created this character of us and made us wear it. Like the horrible tale from Goosebumps, The Haunted Mask, where as soon as we are forced to wear it in this context, it sticks and we can't get it off. It's suffocating. They make us out to be these animals not worth saving because we're too far gone. Just like a werewolf or other were-creature in literature or movies. Our wild, untamed nature being too much for them. Something they fear. Something they couldn't imagine happening to them, personally. Probably not because of their own beliefs, but more so that they care too much about what other people think of them. But I digress. When people challenge other people's worldview and they can't wrap their head around it, it's called cognitive dissonance. I've experienced that myself. Having grown up Mormon and leaving it, it's a whole other beast. Overcoming that fear in particular has its own hurdles. So let me paint a picture for you. The thing about werewolves is there's two versions of them. Ones who can control it and those who cannot. We are slotted into the category where it looks like we can't control it. And I'm not talking about trans people being trans by choice. That's not it. I'm talking about being painted as this monster that comes after your children in the night. Like Gaston says in Beauty and the Beast, quote, "We're not safe until his head is mounted on my wall. I say we kill the beast." Unquote. That's really what they want to do. Just like Gaston fires up the villagers to storm the castle and kill the beast. Like someone says when hunting a werewolf because they want to help them by killing them with silver. Like the Wolfman from the 2010 motion picture. The thing is, we're more like the werewolf that can control it. Some of us find it feels like a curse in the beginning. But the more we lean into it, it shows us a happier version of us all. Cis and trans alike. An untamed life with shapeshifter energy. We are comfortable with diversity. We represent what it means to accept diversity fully and unapologetically. Some of us wish we could be normal, but we aren't, and there's nothing we can do but accept it. But when we accept it, there's a freedom that we feel because we can finally take off all the masks and all the false labels. It's a rebirth of soul through the physical. We're still the same people. We just look a little different now. We've been painted as one thing, and people believe it because they're using one of the strongest emotions in the world, fear. Most people can't get past it, and those who do rarely question it for themselves on how being trans actually works. You're never bitten or slashed, but always born trans. You're never brainwashed, only seen through another. During our transition, especially at the beginning, we're vulnerable, perceived a freak because it feels obvious to us at first that we are different to other people. But in reality, we just feel that way because we're finally accepting our truth on a personal level and starting to show it for the first time, and that's uncomfortable. And it's not the norm, and so people freak out. Just like when a new werewolf comes into their powers, they feel unstable and scared. Yet older werewolves can help steer that change. We can all steer that change. Change is good, but it can feel very dangerous or uncomfortable at first. Whether cis or trans, when it comes to the world and how it is perceived to work on an individual level. You might dig your heels into the mud at first, but it will eventually change. Just like the moon changes a werewolf into their other form eventually when the moon is full. One way or another, that wolf will come out. That change will come out. When it's full and you try to control it, the more painful the transformation. But sometimes we don't know we're doing it when it comes to real life issues. An example of this can be found in media such as The Silence of the Lambs. In The Silence of the Lambs, the script clearly said at one point through the character Clarice, quote, "There's no correlation in literature between transsexualism and violence. Transsexuals are very passive," unquote. That is the real truth in real life. Yet no one wants to pay attention to that. Instead, they pay attention to the serial killer and associate us with Buffalo Bill because he triggers that fear response, and he's literally taking women's skin to become one because he's painted to be a false transsexual, a desperate attempt at feeling better, albeit homicidal, obviously. Despite the attempts to make sure that they aren't talking about trans people in the film by the directors and producers, at least that's how I perceive it, people still picked up on the message that they wanted to perceive. What I'm trying to say is this. Those in power right now want you focused on us trans people because we are their bodyguards, willing or not. It's like that scene from one of the most recent Predator movies. I forget which one it is. Forgive me for that. But it's the part where they have the Predator on the operating table to see what he is. And he escapes and he takes one of the scientists and puts him in front of him so that he doesn't get shot. That's what they are doing with us. They want you to look at this over here instead of look at what we're doing behind the scenes. Willing or not, pick-me's or not, We're literally made out to be monsters, but in a very subtle and insidious way. A way that you have to actively educate yourself on. Otherwise, you're doing just what they want you to do. Dehumanize, demonize, and ultimately genocide us. And when we're gone, who's next to fill the role of bodyguard? Just like Oz put it in Wicked. But I'll reframe it as a question. Who will be the next real good enemy? I don't think you want to find out because it might just be you. But if you've made it this far and you're on the other side as they want you to perceive it, yet again, like I said before, why not at least talk to trans people like myself? I'm more than willing to talk. Or watch videos on other trans people's journeys, or look up accurate information, or ask for clarification on things. You don't have to believe it right away. That's why it's called research. Not in a scientific way, but just learning new perspectives and learning how it really works and unlearning the way that they want you to view us. You're going to help us remove our chips. Just know that some of us might lash out and say that they aren't responsible for your misunderstanding or something like that. View it as a defensive maneuver. A lot of us are tired and easily triggered because look at what I'm saying here. Look at what we have to deal with every single day. We're too small of a community to do anything about it. We can't remove the chip from our necks on our own. Just like in my book, though, once those chips are removed, the people affected can change shape at will and join the resistance called Yggdrasil's Watch. They train with others like them and finally feel control over their bodies and their minds and use it to defeat the regime using the face that they gave them. Finding balance and unity within themselves and each other. Why not try that in real life? You can, but will you choose to? That's the real question you should be asking yourself. Just like in the Hunger Games, President Snow says, quote, hope. It's the only thing stronger than fear. A little hope is effective. A lot of hope is dangerous. Spark is fine, as long as it's contained. Unquote. Are you going to let yourself be contained and controlled or not? Thank you for listening. But with that being said, remember, keep your mind and your heart open. Peace.